Welcome to the Nothing Finer in the Land podcast. I'm your host, Rick Beach, alongside Austin Allen. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Big shout out to Austin. He did a fine job putting YouTube together, doing all the videoing. So shout out to Austin. Appreciate it, boy.
Yeah, man, no problem, and I enjoy doing it. And y'all make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way y'all going to be notified every time we post a new video.
Shoot, yeah. Well, that being said, let's roll right into the podcast. We're going to talk about defensive line. Coach Trey Scott. I like the Trey Scott hired 2-3 years ago. We did it right before the 2017 season. Tracy Rocker, of course, was a coach before. All over he was at Auburn and Tennessee Titans and came to Georgia. And Trey Scott kind of didn't get off to a hot start recruiting when he came in. Caught a lot of flack from fans. Now he's catching a lot of flack for fans on his, production of the defensive line. But I think this year the defensive line is going to be what propels us. It's going to be the muscle of the defense. It's going to be what carries that defense into December when we play, more than likely, Alabama in the SEC championship game and hopefully into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you just kind of explained it yourself. I mean, having that lagging little bit of a year in 2016-17 as far as getting some good 4-star, 5-star guys in, and it kind of cost us last year. But, I mean, we stacked the talent for this year, and we got a lot of veteran leadership coming back. Guys like Tyler Clark going to have to play very consistent. If Tyler Clark can be consistent, then he can carry this D-line. He can be a leader, an anchor, nasty dude, good run stopper, good at shedding the block, filling the gap, all the fundamentals, but he has to do it on a consistent basis. And I think that's the next step we're looking for Trey Scott to take as far as developing these kids go. Can they play at their best every down?
Yeah, that's going to be Trey Scott's biggest challenge, is making sure he gets everything out of these guys. Tyler Clark's had in the past, moments where he's wanted to loaf on some plays. Seen it big time in the Sugar Bowl. So, I mean, if he can get max effort out of everybody, which, that's what every coach says they want to get. That's what every player wants to give. But when you got guys like Clark that showed in the past he's been known to kind of goof off a little bit, that ain't going to fly, and that's up to Trey Scott to get that out of him.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of loafing going on in the Sugar Bowl, but there was also, the year before that, some of the best play I've ever seen Tyler Clark have in the Rose Bowl, which was the height of the heights. We gotta have that from him every week, no matter who the opponent is, no matter what the situation is. Obviously I don't want to get back into the Sugar Bowl and why we lost and why we played like we did, but defensive line's got to be a huge component to this year's team. Last year we was dead last in the league in sacks, when we still had a good bit. But just to show you, I think DeAndre Walker led the team with 7 sacks, and the next closest guy was Channing Tindall with 2.5. The guy who didn't even get that much significant playing time. So that's something that's got to change. We want to affect and we want to have havoc and force fumbles and stuff, but at the end of the day, the more we get to the quarterback, the faster we can do it. That's how turnovers happen. It all starts by putting your hands on the quarterback.
It ain't even got to be the defensive line getting their hands on the quarterback, but they got to create the lanes for the linebackers to get in there. Yeah. They got to create the havoc up front to make that happen. So, we look at, I think Georgia had 21 sacks last year as a team. Put that in context, Alabama had 42. So they doubled us in sacks, and we still had them on the ropes in the SEC championship game. So it's not like we were, middle of the pack in the women. We had one regular season loss. We played damn good all year, and that's without creating quote-unquote havoc plays that Kirby's been preaching all spring and now into summer.
Yep.
So you're looking at a team. So you're looking at Georgia, who is now putting more of an emphasis. I think they'll get more of that with Lanning calling the plays, but it still starts and stops with that defensive line.
Oh, yeah.
And what Trey Scott can do.
Yeah, and back to Tyler Clark. We're not wanting Tyler Clark to get a ton of sacks. I don't think that's his job. We're going to be doing a film study here soon, so y'all make sure y'all check that out. We'll throw the link in this video whenever we get it up. But we're going to be going over how Tyler stacks and sheds the block right over the nose and fills the gap. I mean, that's something that's very important. Maybe just as important as sacking the quarterback is stopping the run. Stopping the run could be the main factor through an SEC schedule of beating Alabama or falling short yet again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to stop the run. It's one thing to stop the run against Kentucky. You know, they got their 280-pound offensive lineman. It's one thing to stop the run against Missouri, which last year we didn't, but that's because we was playing coverage and locked in. So it's one thing to stop the run against these games that you know you're going to win, but what do you do against Alabama? What do you do when they line up and they run right down your mouth? And you got to be able to stop it. You got to be able to get in there, create the lanes, let the linebackers run in there and make some contact.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I think that's a huge thing for these nose guards going into this year. Tyler Clark and Jordan Davis is you're going to get double teamed. So can you stack and shed the double? Can you hold the double team while the linebackers fill the gap? And conversely from that, can you stack and shed when you're not getting double teamed and you're just one-on-one with the center? Can you stack and shed and fill the gap yourself to force the running back to bounce it out? That's something that's very important, and it's something that we've been very inconsistent at through last year. But through 2017, it was a bit of a bright spot on our team, and some of the same guys kind of slacked off a little bit. I don't want to say slacked off, but the production of things like that dropped off a little bit last year compared to 17. So I just want to see Tyler Clark get back to the pinnacle of where he was consistently.
And we're talking about Tyler Clark, but let's go ahead and talk about another one of the quote-unquote old heads, I like to call them. You know, look at David Marshall, had the foot injury, missed most of the last season. What is the effect of losing him? How did that affect a Tyler Clark last season? And so, you know, you got them. They're more of the traditional would have been ends on a 4-3, so they play kind of hybrid, go back and forth for us. But you look right in the middle with Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and then another old head seemed like he'd been there 20 years, Julian Rochester.
Yeah, it's very important that we get good play out of these guys. And, yeah, if we were in a different scheme, they would be playing a little different. But this 3-4 scheme isn't all about the defensive linemen. The defensive linemen are there to serve a purpose, but everything flows to the point of the second level, to the linebacker. The linebacker comes downhill in our scheme, fills the gap. That's what it's all about. So I've been pounding it, but I'm going to keep pounding it because it's something that people really need to pay attention to, is how these guys fire off the ball and stack and shed these blocks. Now, if you go back and watch the Sugar Bowl, there was a few plays where a few guys weren't even firing off the ball, and that's something that we cannot have going into the season versus anyone, because when you start loafing and you start giving a lack of effort, then it affects the whole team from the top down. So what I'm looking for from Trey Scott is, we've seen that the guys got the potential. We see that they know the fundamentals of the game. I just want to see more intensity, more fire, more passion.
Yeah, and to just add on to what you're talking about, how important it is for that next level, what our defensive line, their job, create the lanes for the linebackers, of course. All you got to do is look at recruiting. Where's Kirby going? He's attacking the linebackers and recruiting. He's wanting to get the top-notch linebackers because that's who's making your plays.
Yeah.
That's who's coming in there and taking the quarterback to the ground. That's who's getting in there and hitting that running back and stopping him. So, yes, you want your defensive linemen to be playmakers and stuff, but we need them just to be a mass. Be in there, take on that double team, open that lane, and let a Nakobe Dean, let a Monty Rice, let a Tay Crowder come in there and clean it up. And the biggest thing is them cleaning it up, because a lot of times, like in the Sugar Bowl, how many times did we see Richie come in from his safety spot, have one-on-one with the running back, and roll right off his back? So, I mean, once we get them lanes opened up, then all we got to do is clean it up. So hopefully this year our linebackers can come in and clean it up, and then they don't get the stat, but we'll know all the credit will go to Trey Scott and his boys.
But, yeah, you're exactly right, Rick. We got to have these guys just do assignment football. I mean, that's what this scheme's all about. We're not getting crazy Todd Grantham drawing up these crazy stunts. I do feel Dan Lanning is going to bring more pressure, but it's not going to be these crazy blitz packages. We're going to bring 1-2 extra guys. People going to fill their gap, and hopefully we can get better off the edge, which I think we will. I think we got a lot of speed coming in, some good size coming in, good length. That's been important as far as defensive end play at Georgia for the past decade. Seems like we've had a lot of long, athletic guys, Leonard Floyd, and so to be able to get that speed rush off the edge while not giving up our integrity right in the middle of the A and B gap is going to be super important.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the defensive ends that we're going to have this year. You got your outside linebackers, that are going to put their hands in the dirt. So you got your Aziz, you got Malik, you got some of these guys that are going to be more defensive end. They're not going to play that much standing up. Then you got your guys that are your outside linebackers, mostly Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson. They're going to put their hands in the dirt, and they're going to play a lot of standing up. So we'll talk more about them guys when we do the outside linebacker breakdown. But right now, just looking, I consider Aziz as being a defensive end. I don't consider him, he's listed as an outside linebacker. Another player that I'm looking forward to this year, Malik. I think, he had a great game against Georgia Tech, and granted that's against that triple option, but I think that's going to give him the confidence coming into this season to be a playmaker. And, he's coming in his junior year. It's time for him to grow up, time to be a man. And here it is, 2019, and this is what we've been talking about. All these recruits been wanting it since they were freshmen, with Richie, Jake Fromm, Malik, J.J. Holloman, all them guys. Here it is. It's upon you, and it's going to be, the hinge is going to be that defensive line.
Yeah, for sure. And just to bring it all into perspective about how important the D-line play is to the linebacking core, Monty Rice last year only missed 3% of his tackles on the season, which is pretty amazing. I mean, that's Roquan Smith-type numbers. I mean, obviously not the same athleticism, but the dude's a sure tackler. And so we're going to need a lot of beef. We're going to need Jordan Davis, Tyler Clark, these middle gap guys to really take as many bodies as they can so Monty Rice and company can secure the tackle.
Yeah, I think the big thing, defensive line, I'm looking for is the old heads, David Marshall, Tyler Clark, Julian Rochester. To pull it is the trench mob. They got all on the chain. I think they need to pull the chain, pull the young guys together, and let's go win that natty. News come out this week about David Pollock possibly getting inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame for 2020 class. Austin, who do you think is going to be the next Georgia player to get in?
Well, there's a few names that come to mind, but I'm not sure on the metrics that allow you to get these ballots. I mean, is it full career? Is it one season? I mean, what is it? Is it beloved by the fans? Is it a combination of all these things? But if it was up to me, I'd say Roquan Smith definitely deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. I know he's only got one season worth of stats to put behind it, but that one season was legendary. I mean, he led the nation in almost everything in every defensive category, led us to huge wins, had huge moments in the Rose Bowl. I mean, I don't see what's more Hall of Fame than that.
I would put it at Georgia. In Georgia lore, it's a legendary season for Georgia fans, but I don't know if it's going to be a legendary season where you put it at a national level. Just because for us, this is something new. We've never seen a linebacker come in and make this kind of plays. Think about Alabama. Think about all the linebackers. Think about all the linebackers they've had in the last 10 years. Rolando McClain. When they had Reuben Foster won linebacker of the year before Roquan. He had more sacks than Roquan.
Yeah.
I think it's a half or maybe a one. So I don't know if Roquan's season, as good as it was, if that was really as good as it was, or was it something we haven't. It was good. It wasn't legendary because if Nakobe Dean puts one together next year, or say Monty Rice puts one together this year, it kind of diminishes it a little bit. To us, hell, that's the best season we've ever seen a linebacker have. Now, I don't think it's Hall of Fame, because I do think Hall of Fame is a career award. David Pollock won. He was 3-time first-team All-American, defensive end of the year. He won the best overall player in the Lombardi Award. That's the kind of stuff you look at and say, that's a Hall of Famer. And to me, I don't know who it would be. I don't know who the next Hall of Fame player would be. Would you look at somebody and say Aaron Murray? He is the all-time SEC touchdowns, but he didn't win nothing. So you can't go that route. So you take out the whole 90s because the 90s was the worst decade of Georgia football. So if you go by wins and losses, you don't get nobody in there. So who would you go to and look at and say had this great career in the last 20, 25 years for Georgia football?
Well, just hypothetical, what if Rodrigo Blankenship was to put together a legendary season and hit some big time field goals in big time games, walk-off type field goals? I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think that could push him into that spot?
Kevin Butler. He's in the Hall of Fame for Georgia as a kicker. So to say it can't be done, we got one on our own.
Yep.
In our own legacy, that's a kicker. So, yeah, if Rodrigo had a moment. Kevin Butler, of course, had the 62-yard field goal against Clemson. So he had that moment. So, yeah, it could happen for Rodrigo could be the next guy. There's just no, to me, statistically, anybody that's really standing out as the next great, the Hall of Fame career. And it's hard to do now. Number one, you leave so early. Yeah. And that plays a factor in it. David Pollock was there 4 years. I don't think you see that nowadays. And it wasn't that long ago he was there.
Yeah, that's true. It is hard to put together a career that's that long and that dominant at the same time. Now, you got like Roquan, you didn't see him come on till right before he was getting ready to head to the NFL. So in that aspect, I guess you are right. But as far as another guy goes, I don't see Aaron Murray getting it, but even though he is a Georgia legend and he played in some big games and won some big games, mainly that LSU game, one of the best Georgia games ever played. But I think you're right, Rick. I don't see many other options for that right now. I mean, people could say DeAndre Baker. I mean, dude didn't give up a touchdown for a long time and did win the award for best cornerback, best defensive back, but I don't think it was enough to put him over the edge. I mean, you're talking about a guy in David Pollock who is a legend, who did win SEC championship, and is also now a beloved figure in the national media. So I think Hall of Fame is kind of like Heisman, but less selective, where it's a combination of things. Did you have a great career? Did you win anything important? And what do you do now? Are you still in the business? Are people, do people still talk about you and regard you as a legend even after all this time? Which for David Pollock, it was 2004 or 5 when he got out.
Yeah, 2004 was the last year.
Yeah. So I mean, saying that, and then we still regard him as a legend. Most Georgia folks do, and apparently the national media sees it the same way. So
yeah, I mean that's it. The media looks at it, and national fans. You got to think fans all throughout the nation they know David Pollock, Georgia. They know how great he was when he was at UGA. I just don't see anybody in between. I said Murray because he does lead the SEC in touchdown passes, but that would be a SEC Hall of Fame type deal, not a national. And I'll say this: in Murray's biggest moment, in the biggest moment of his career, we came up 6 yards short. In the biggest moment of his career, he came up a little bit short against Alabama in 2012. So it's kind of, I don't see nobody. I don't see anybody. Now, have we had great players? Have we had probably NFL Hall of Famers come through? Yeah. Well, hell, Champ Bailey's in the NFL Hall of Fame. Terrell Davis is in the NFL Hall of Fame. Hines Ward's in the NFL Hall of Fame. But we just didn't get that from them at UGA. All right, time for that social media. Twitter, @nothingfinerpod. Facebook, go to facebook.com/nothingfinerintheland. Austin, what about that YouTube?
Yeah, y'all check us out, youtube.com, nothingfinerpod. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell once again. And also check out nothingfinerpod.com if y'all guys want to listen to the audio-only portion or check out some older episodes. Y'all make sure y'all go check that out.
Yeah, website got all the older episodes me and Austin's done. We got some archives when it was infant stages of the Nothing Finer in the Land podcast. And, got some bios on there. Got, a comment section if y'all got anything to say. So we're going to get out of here. Austin, you got anything?
Just once again, getting closer and closer. Excited to see what this new evolution of this defensive line brings us this year.
Absolutely. You know, we're doing a countdown on Nothing Finer in the Land group on Facebook, and it's always exciting to see when that, you know, we're in the 90s, and that's mostly defensive linemen. Now we're in the 80s, so it's wide receivers and tight ends. Next week, be on the offensive linemen in the 70s, so it won't be long, getting close, real close to media days. I'm super excited about media days in Hoover, and just, man, the pad's going to be clacking here before long. With that being said, go Dogs.
As the Commodores are 3rd and 1 on the Georgia 5-yard line. Dogs defensively with Michael Barnett and Clark and Rochester and Walker on the defensive edge. Grant sneaks up on the line too. Shermer under center on 3rd and 1. Oh, he hit him up in the backfield. Tyler Clark just gobbled